I'm here today to announce criminal charges have been filed against 1 former state senator, 5 former Pennsylvania Turnpike Commission officials and employees, and 2 businessmen who had multi-million-dollar contracts with the Turnpike. The former state officials charged wielded extraordinary power, which they wrongfully used for self-enrichment for their own political purposes rather than for good of the Commonwealth and of the citizens. Their criminal acts resulted in the misdirection, misuse, and theft of millions of dollars of public money. Today, charges have been filed against former State Senator Robert Mello, former Turnpike Commissioner Mitchell Rubin, former Turnpike Chief Executive Officer Joseph Brimmeyer, former Turnpike Chief Operating Officer George Hatalowicz, and former Turnpike employees Melvin Shelton and Raymond Zajichek, and Turnpike vendors Dennis Miller and Jeffrey Szynski. They're charged with a variety of offenses, including conspiracy, criminal bribery, bid rigging, theft, conflict of interest, and corruption, corrupt organization violations. A lengthy statewide grand jury investigation has uncovered extensive evidence to support their returning a presentment, finding significant evidence that the Pennsylvania Turnpike Commission has been corrupted by improper political influence from its very own officials and the individuals who do business with the Turnpike. Evidence of secret gifts of cash, travel, and entertainment, and the payment of substantial political contributions to public officials and political organizations by private Turnpike vendors and their consultants demonstrates that the Turnpike operates under a pay-to-play system that is illegal and corrupt. According to the charges, those who pay to play have sought and been rewarded with multi-million-dollar Turnpike contracts, and the public has lost untold millions of dollars. In particular, the 33rd statewide investigating grand jury found substantial evidence that former State Senator Mello, during his tenure as Democratic floor leader, directed that his chief of staff secure Turnpike contracts for key contributors and supporters. Former State Senator Mello also directed that his chief of staff task individuals at the Turnpike with providing political support and fundraising efforts on his behalf. According to the charges, Mello's chief of staff followed those orders and communicated Mello's request directly to former Turnpike Chief Executive Officer Joseph Brimmeyer and former Turnpike Chairman Mitchell Rubin. Brimmeyer and Rubin most often directed former Chief Operating Officer George Hatalowicz to do their bidding, but also used others at the Turnpike to do this as well. The charges detail how Hatalowicz, as directed by Rubin and Brimmeyer, engaged in political fundraising efforts and wrongfully influenced the Turnpike's procurement process for campaigns of gubernatorial candidates by using Turnpike contract lists and otherwise influencing the process. These contract lists contain detailed vendor information, including contract amounts paid to date. The influence over vendors and potential vendors was wide-ranging and included use of Turnpike consultants to solicit contributions on Brimmeyer's behalf, ranking the importance of various fundraising events in response to vendor inquiries, and advising vendors that campaign contributions were directly linked to their ability to do work and obtain work with the Turnpike. These charges show that the greatest improper influence was exerted over the Turnpike's procurement process. The actual selection and recommendation of Turnpike vendors follow what witnesses identified as the 60-40 rule, which provided that 60% of the Turnpike contracts or selections went to the majority party and 40% went to the party in the minority. The grand jury found that this influence and pattern permeated all aspects and categories of procurement at the Turnpike. Through testimony of Turnpike employees involved in the selection process, the grand jury identified firms that received preferential treatment, firms that felt pressure to make significant political campaign contributions, and firms that provided Turnpike and elected officials with gifts and entertainment. Often these gifts and entertainment expenses were not reported by the state officials as required by law. Some examples from the grand jury presentment of this improper conduct involving engineering firms include evidence that an engineering company was repeatedly solicited by Turnpike employees charged here to contribute to specific political campaigns. This firm also provided entertainment and hospitality to key decision makers at the Turnpike. This engineering company, between 2002 and 2010, contributed more than $100,000 to political candidates who had the potential to exert the most influence and power over the Turnpike. Between July 2004 and August 2012, this company was paid approximately $9 million by the Turnpike contracts and also received a no-bid $6 million Turnpike contract. Another engineering firm was told by a Turnpike commissioner that it needed to pay attention to particular political fundraising events and did so by contributing from 2002 to 2010 almost $20,000 to political candidates who had the potential to exert the most power and influence over the Turnpike. This company received approximately $37.3 million in Turnpike work. Between 2002 and 2010, an engineering firm contributed more than $160,000 to those political candidates who had the potential to exert the most power and influence over the Turnpike and provided former Turnpike COO George Hatalowicz with a $4,000 travel voucher he failed to report. This company received approximately $59.1 million in Turnpike work. One engineering firm did not make political campaign contributions, but did give $6,100 in unreported gift certificates to former Turnpike Commissioner J. William Lincoln and former Turnpike COO George Hatalowicz. This firm received approximately $1.9 million of Turnpike contracts. Another engineering firm took direction from former Turnpike COO George Hatalowicz regarding what political campaign contributions they needed to make. Paid $26,500 to a state senator identified by Turnpike staff, provided work benefiting Turnpike CEO Bryn Meyer's sister, an architect, and lavishly entertained former Turnpike COO Hatalowicz. Between 2004 and 2012, this firm received approximately $9.3 million of Turnpike work. Non-engineering firms, according to the presentment, also paid to play to get lucrative Turnpike contracts. The grand jury found that Dennis Miller, on behalf of a company he worked for, secured $82 million in Turnpike contracts through influence and political friendship with the Turnpike's chief information officer. Miller solicited campaign contributions from his employees and subcontractors in an effort to carry favor with those politicians who have the potential to exert the greatest influence over the Turnpike. The grand jury found that Miller's conduct during the project resulted in overbilling and make work, thereby increasing his commissions and bonuses. Former Turnpike COO Hatalowicz and former Turnpike Commissioner Rubin were directly involved in both the Turnpike selection of Miller's employer and the significant Turnpike contract increases that company subsequently received. In particular, the Turnpike increased his employer's $3.5 million contract twice without competitive bid, first by $437,000 and then by $58 million. It was during the payment of that $58 million in public money that Miller told his consultants to bill the Turnpike for work not performed, paid sub-consultants for make work, and received his highest commissions. The grand jury found that former Turnpike's Chief Executive Officer Joseph Bryn Meyer and former Turnpike Chief Operating Officer Hatalowicz exerted improper influence over the selection process concerning Turnpike work for one particular firm by instructing Turnpike staff to alter the evaluations for that firm to justify their selection. The grand jury also found evidence that Jeff Szynski, employed with the Turnpike vendor as an advocate to maintain a positive relationship with the Turnpike, improperly provided to Hatalowicz, Rubin, and other Turnpike officials trips to Florida, entertainment at transportation conferences, golfing, and numerous dinners. Turnpike officials and employees failed to report these gifts or travel. Between 2003 and 2011, this Turnpike vendor paid Szynski $2.4 million for his work maintaining this relationship with the Turnpike and reimbursed him over $93,000 in expenses. During a portion of this time frame, Szynski became part owner of the vendor's sub-consultant and failed to disclose that fact either to the vendor or to the grand jury. Thus, Szynski began to directly benefit from his advocacy and had a greater incentive to improperly influence the decision makers at the Turnpike. Finally, The pay-to-play culture also permeated entities seeking to provide professional services to the Turnpike, such as banking and title insurance. According to the charges filed today, former State Senator Mello secured Turnpike work for a Pennsylvania-based bank by directing his chief of staff to contact former Chairman Rubin at the Turnpike to get them work, which he did. Following this, the Pennsylvania bank was paid approximately $2.4 million for work with the Turnpike. At the same time, the bank entertained Mello at numerous Yankee games, concerts, and dinners at a cost of approximately $3,500. None of this was reported by Mello as required by law. In support of and during Mello's contemplated run for governor, this bank hosted an event honoring Mello, which cost the bank approximately $7,000. Mello also failed to report that political campaign contribution, again as required by law. Former Turnpike Commissioner Rubin secured work for a title company with the Turnpike. This company was not the lowest bidder, and historically the Turnpike used different firms to provide services to the eastern and western portions of the state. The Turnpike paid this particular title insurance company approximately $107,000 between August 2006 and December 2012. Each parcel requiring title work and the amount to be paid to the title company was considered and voted on during numerous public hearings of the Turnpike Commission. During much of that time frame, Rubin acted as a consultant and received commissions from the title insurance totaling approximately $220,000. Despite his direct and personal financial interest, in all but 2 public meetings of the Turnpike Commission, Rubin failed to disclose his financial relationship with this title insurance company. I want to thank Senior Deputy Attorney General Laurel Brandstetter, who will prosecute the case, BCI Special Agent Robert Gift, and Corporal Leo Hannon of the Pennsylvania State Police for their work on this investigation. I'd like to also thank all of the other agents and members of the Pennsylvania State Police who worked tirelessly on this case. We now have, you'll hear from Pennsylvania State Police Commissioner Frank Noonan.